Hey guys, I am Eugene Bach, and I want to just share about what is taking place right now inside of China. I think this is not a planned broadcast. I mean, few of our podcasts or broadcasts actually are planned. There are times where I just get inspired and I'm irresponsible like that. I just jump in front of the camera and just start filming things. And I want to share with you what is taking place inside of China, because right now we are seeing 7 deadly plagues that are hitting China and hitting China pretty hard. These 7 deadly plagues are things that are, I believe, in an area that can be considered to be supernatural. And I shared about this just a little bit on our Facebook Live session. And I'm hoping that some of the people that were following us on Facebook Live just a little bit ago, I'm trying to appeal to everyone. And we got several different groups, right? We got some people that only follow us on Facebook, some people that only follow us on YouTube, some people that only follow us on our website, some people that only follow us on our podcasts. So we have these different groups that are kind of spread out all over. And I'm constantly trying to figure out a way that we can hone in and get our supporters the most content in one place. And the reason I'm doing this podcast or this broadcast here is so that our friends and family members that have been supporting Back to Jerusalem for years and are friends of mine will know that they can go to backtojerusalem.com/live and find this broadcast. Or you can watch us live on our YouTube channel. And then sometimes we also put this on Facebook. I'm going to be sharing this on our Facebook. I'm going to be writing an article that will link to this video later on. But as I started today I was reading the Bible. And I was praying, and as I was praying and reading the Bible, and I was thinking about an article for the Back to Jerusalem website, I really felt that there's no way that I can. I'm not the best writer, so it's not easy for me to write in words some of the things that I'm thinking when it comes to the content that I'm trying to convey to our supporters. And as I started to think about the things that are happening inside of China, it's like there's just too much. There's too many things happening on a daily basis to share with people what's happening, what's taking place. And I was sharing that the disasters, I shared about this on our Back to Jerusalem Facebook Live area. I said that disaster is hitting so fast and so furious inside of China that for me to write about it all would just be very difficult because it's just so much. But there are 7 of these what I feel can be said to be deadly plagues. You may not agree with that, but let me just explain each one of them. There are what I believe are 7 deadly plagues hitting China right now. And it's really difficult to even talk about. Right now, I just got pictures in from Beirut 5 minutes ago. And I shared them with our Back to Jerusalem team members. We have directors and team members, in the UK, in Holland, Canada, Sweden, America, Brazil, South Korea. And so I tried to send those pictures out to our partners that stand together with Back to Jerusalem so they can see what's happening in Beirut. But it's hard to talk about an explosion that killed people, over 150 people in Beirut, thousands of people injured, hundreds of thousands of people homeless because of this explosion. But because of what's happening in China, it just seems to be a little much. It's like it just keeps coming and piling on. Right now, we're doing 30 days of prayer for North Korea. And you can find our prayer and join us with our prayer every day on Ding Dash. But even that is like 30 days of prayer. It's like we're able to plug one hole over here in North Korea, but this other hole is popping out. And so if you put your finger in that hole and that hole, another hole kind of breaks out with more water coming out. And after a while, you run out of fingers to plug the holes and toes to plug the holes. And the water just keeps gushing and gushing. there are other places in the world that are suffering. But what's happening in China, I believe, is supernatural. And I was thinking about a joke that was told by the late Rodney Dangerfield. He said this, right? He said, I woke up today and everything's going wrong. Everything is going wrong. I get out of bed, I put on my shirt, a button falls off. I reach down, grab my briefcase, the handle pops off. I try to walk out of the house, open the door, the handle pops off. I'm afraid to go to the bathroom. When I hear that, I'm like, yeah, in China, everything that can go wrong is going wrong, which makes you think, what's next? Now, for the 7 deadly plagues that I'm seeing hit China right now, I'm not even going to mention the coronavirus. Because the coronavirus is hitting everywhere, including China. Remember, it hit China first. And in January of 2020, I came out, was sharing with people about this deadly virus that was hitting Wuhan, was warning the world about it. And there were some people that probably felt that, you know what, Eugene is just being dramatic. I know that I might have a tendency to get excited when I share information, but I don't feel. I mean, I try to do a self-evaluation. You can correct me if you think that I'm wrong. I don't know. But I don't think that I'm over dramatic, or let me see. I don't think that I over spiritualize. Let's put it that way. I don't think that I'm over spiritualizing when I talk about the 7 deadly plagues that are hitting China right now. What I want to do, just really quickly, is share about these 7 deadly plagues that are hitting China. And they're coming at a time when China's church is on the receiving end of the worst persecution that I have seen in the last 2 decades. The timing could not be more suspicious. Whether you believe that God still acts in the way that we have seen him do in the Bible, where supernatural punishment would come down on nations and their leaders that chose to rise up against God himself. In the book of Exodus, we see probably one of the most striking examples where the Pharaoh hardened his heart, continued to persecute the people of God, and as a result, his entire nation saw these deadly plagues that came upon the land of Egypt. Does that still happen today? Well, there's a lot of theologians that would say absolutely not. That's not the God that we serve. The God that we serve is a loving God, a merciful God, a God that does not act out in vengeance, but one that acts out in love. And there are others that they would say that in their theology that God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. That the God of the Old Testament is not different than Jesus in the New Testament. That the New Testament isn't a change or a departure from the Old Testament, but that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament. The God of the Old Testament that we often see as being a just God, a God of judgment, a God that people suffer under, is also a God that is loving and is kind and is merciful. And we see that embodied in Jesus in the New Testament. So there are 2 different schools of thought here. And so I am not saying that these 7 deadly plagues inside of China is a direct result of the persecution against the Christians inside of China. The reason I'm not saying that is because I see so many nations that have taken the same stance against the Christian body in their borders as China has done. And I believe that God is no respecter of persons. And so if there is one nation persecuting Christians that God acts on their behalf in a supernatural way, he will do it in every instance. But in China, I can't help but see at least a coincidence in the timing. What we are seeing inside of China right now is the increase of persecution to the level that I have not seen in the last 2 decades. The Chinese church is suffering more under the current government of China. And the government in China is continuing to tighten the screws, to put even more pressure on and more persecution on the church than has been done in the last 2 decades. And now, with persecution kind of reaching this crescendo inside of China, we are starting to see supernatural phenomenon that is bringing about death and destruction in China. I am just going to share with you what's taking place, but I'm not going to say why. I'm just going to ask for prayer. And I want to look at each one of these. So the 7 deadly plagues that you probably haven't even heard about. Again, I'm not even going to mention the coronavirus as being one of the deadly plagues. Did I say deadly sins? I'm sorry if I said 7 deadly sins. I meant 7 deadly plagues. But I'm not even going to mention the coronavirus as one of those deadly plagues. Though it is, it's not one that I'm going to put into that category because it's something that the entire world is now reeling from, right? But what's happening inside of China with these supernatural phenomenon is unique right now to China. Number 1, the floods. I don't know if you've been following the floods inside of China or not, but just go on to Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you use as your search engine and look up floods in China. It'll blow your mind. Every province inside of China, every province has been smashed by floods. Entire cities are underwater. And when I say cities in China, right now I'm doing this broadcast from Sweden. I'm not talking about a Swedish town. I'm talking about Chinese towns, which are made up of hundreds of thousands or millions of people. Chinese cities are huge, and many of them are underwater. Hundreds of millions of people have been displaced because of these floods inside of China. But the big problem is that even when the waters start to recede and the ground starts to dry up, the crops have been destroyed. Entire crops have been washed away. Buildings have been destroyed. More than 200 people have died from these floods that have been taking place for the last 2 months. Rain has just been pounding China. Monsoon season has hit, but it's not just the monsoons. These are off the charts. These are reaching record levels that China has never seen before. This is the biggest news right now in China, and it's not really being covered. Why? Because there's so much happening. There's so many other disasters smashing into China. Let me pull up a video for you right now so that you can see what's happening. I'm just going to switch over to my desktop and share this screen so that you can see this. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, but this is just some of the footage that is taking place inside of China. I mean, look, entire towns underwater. I can show this footage all day long. The Yangtze River is about ready to break the Three Gorges Dam. And if that happens, you're talking about everyone downstream is going to be suffering. Here you can see crops that have been completely and absolutely destroyed. And this is coming from different areas. The rivers that went through cities, the water has broken through the banks, now is up in high rises, is in people's homes, is in factories, in businesses, destroying crops. This is all over China. Every province, buildings are collapsing. Shopping centers are collapsing. Corn, rice, fruit orchards completely being destroyed. Some of this video footage may not come all the way out, but here you just got a little bit of an example there. Again, my internet bandwidth is not so strong right now because I am doing this this broadcast from a rural area. I'm in northern Sweden. I'm in an area where it's mainly mountains. The nearest town to me has like 90 people. And so the internet is not that great. It's supposed to be better soon. But this is one of the things that we're seeing on the news every day. I'm going to just switch back over now to the camera because this is something that we're seeing every day and inside of China, but we're not seeing anywhere else. Kids. Right now, we're moving into testing time. Kids inside of China, the tests are like the number one thing. And so many children inside of China, if they don't take their exams, they're kind of like these SATs, right? If for those of you that are not American, SATs are these college entrance exams that everybody takes. And if you want to go to an American college, you have to take these SATs. And so inside of China, you have these tests that take place at the end of the summer, the end of the year, and the Chinese students are having to relocate these exams in upper floors of high rises and take boats to go to the testing centers in order to take these tests. So plague number one, deadly plague hitting China, Mother Nature, and it's one thing. It is one thing to have a flood hit one area of China. But floods have hit every province in China. Every province. Entire crops have been washed away. China's going to feel the pain come this winter. When the food that China usually stores up to be able to also sell to other countries is not going to be there in their grain silos to help them make it through the winter. So they're going to have to rely on other countries. One of the countries that most nations rely upon when it comes to agricultural goods is the United States. But the relationship right now between China and the United States is not so good. So for China to sell goods to America and America to sell grain or agricultural goods to China, they're not in a place for proper discussions at the moment. So that's number one, is floods. The second deadly plague hitting China right now is the Bubonic Plague. I mean, I can't even say this with a straight face because who's heard of the Bubonic Plague? This disease should have been. This sounds like something that I'm reading from an old novel from the Middle Ages, from the Dark Ages. China has now locked down just over the weekend. So I'm doing this broadcast, for those of you that might be listening to this at a later date, I'm doing this broadcast on a Monday, when over the weekend, China locked down 2 entire towns in Inner Mongolia because of an outbreak of the Bubonic Plague. Now, when a lot of people hear this and say, yeah, it was actually not China, it was Mongolia. Okay, China has a province that's a Mongolian province. It is a part of China. It's called Inner Mongolia. It's where the capital of that province is called Hohhot. It is not the same as Mongolia proper, the country, where you have the capital of Ulaanbaatar, but Inner Mongolia is a province in China. So please don't confuse that. Because when I talk about this bubonic plague hitting China, there are some people that are not aware. And so they say, sorry, Eugene, that was not China, that was Mongolia. No, this is not Mongolia, this is China. And inside of China right now, they have locked down 2 towns in the Inner Mongolian province because of an outbreak of the bubonic plague. They've had people die. This is a horrible disease, by the way. This is a horrible disease. This is known as Black Death. It is the worst disease by the number of people that is killed. It's the worst disease to ever hit mankind in the history of the world. And now, it's breaking out in China. And the rest of the world needs to be aware of this because just a few hours ago, it was reported that an American man has now died of this type of disease. We don't know if it was exactly the bubonic plague or not, but it looks like he could have caught it from China. I don't know all the details yet. That was just the headlines. So that might come out and say that there's no relation. So I don't want to cause this uproar that it's going to be spreading from all over China. But last time that China did a lockdown, this spread everywhere around the world. So this is one of the things that I really believe. So I just got somebody who wrote in and said, thanks for the live stream. You're welcome. This is something that I really feel that we need to do at Back to Jerusalem and share about these 7 deadly plagues that are hitting China, because it's not just China. It's the entire world that stands to lose if these things grow outside of China. Here's the thing. We as Christians need to pray for our brothers and sisters inside of China today. Because if you don't, it's going to grow out of China and spread to the rest of the world. This is in your best interest to be aware of what's happening in China. Right now, I know that it seems crazy, but China's like a petri dish of diseases that are just kind of brewing out and starting to spill over to the rest of the world. I'm not done. I'm only on the deadly plague number 2. Deadly plague number 2 is the bubonic plague. Deadly plague number 3, I just wrote about and put out an article yesterday on backtojerusalem.com. Oh man, this looks like a video. Now I'm going to switch over here. I want you to see, because I need you to see this video. There's a video here. I'm going to switch over to my desktop and just do a share screen here. If I do a share screen, we'll be able to see this video here. You can find this yourself on liveleak.com. Now, I go to liveleak.com every single day. I go to several different websites. Now, a lot of people always ask me, what websites do you usually go to? Well, when it comes to websites, I start off my morning, every single morning. Number 1, Drudge Report. Number 2, Huffington Post. Number 3, Daily Wire. Number 4, Breitbart.com. Number 5 and 6, CNN, BBC. And then I just start going through North Korean news. I got several websites that I go through, like for instance, 38north.org. That's a really good one for up-to-date information. I go to Daily NK for information on North Korea every day. I go to World News from China Daily, so I follow China's daily newspaper and several other newspapers about China. And there's a whole smorgasbord of different websites that I go to every single day to kind of get a balanced idea of what's taking place. And one of the places that I love to go to is LiveLeak. This video was just released on LiveLeak. Now, I've heard this happening in other parts of China as well. Now, I first heard about this on Chinese social media. There's a couple of social media sites that I follow that give news from WeChat and some other Taobao, these Chinese social media sites. One's called Sup China. Sup China is this website that gives information in English about the biggest news that is taking place on Chinese social media. And so I started hearing about fire coming from the sky, striking buildings. I was like, what? No, and I didn't even really pay it much attention until I saw this video. Now, watch this video. This is stinking nuts. Look at that. Just fire coming from the sky, covering the entire building. Watch this one. Boom! These are people that are just filming this from their building, from their car, from different locations.
我操！刚才一个大雷给这楼全给那干成火花了，这啥情况啊？
Keep watching. Boom! Ah! I mean, that's just fire. Like this is like Game of Thrones dragons flying over buildings in China and just breathing down fire. I mean, what in the world is taking place? I mean, yeah, that's just a different angle. Let me keep watching. Look at that. Now, somebody just wrote, because I had put in our article that fire came down from heaven and consumed a high-rise building. And somebody wrote and said, well, it wasn't really consumed. What? And I mean, from top to bottom, that entire high-rise, which I'm guessing is probably like 30, 40, 50 floors, was consumed from top to bottom with fire. The building didn't catch on fire. It didn't burn down. It didn't fall down. But it was covered with fire. Was that lightning? What kind of energy source? I don't know what that was. This looks supernatural. This is one of those, and it's not just taking place. This here is in the northeastern city of Xinyang, but it's happening in other parts of China as well. You hear that?
我操，咋了是啊？
看，我又录着了！我操！
I mean, that's just, yeah, I don't even know how to explain this. Let me just switch back over to camera. I don't even know how to explain what just happened there. Like, was that lightning? I mean, that, like I said, that's almost as if God was responding to a prayer to light wood on fire to show fake priests that he has that power. I mean, there is probably a natural explanation for this, right? But one after the other, every single day inside. I mean, what? There's something happening inside of China. So, number one, floods. Number two, bubonic plague. Bubonic plague. The Black Death. 3, fire from heaven. The 4th deadly plague right now hitting China is hail. This is something, I've been in hailstorms before, right? I've been in several hailstorms before, but not like what we saw take place last month in Beijing, where massive balls of hail rained down from heaven and just started smashing buildings and cars and people and everything in sight. And then when people stopped to look at it, they were in the shape of the coronavirus. I gotta show this to you. So I'm going to go to a YouTube clip. I'm going to switch back over to share screen so you can see this and just look at this. Boom! I mean, it's just pounding down. Destroying trees, destroying crops, destroying cars. In the shape of the coronavirus. So for those of you that are able to see, some of you might be listening to this by podcast. And I don't know if you can hear the video. If you're listening to this live, please write to me and let me know. Can you hear the video sound at all? There's a guy that's writing to me. His name is Sam. I know that you're listening to this live. Can you write to me and just say whether you can hear the video or not? I know you can hear my voice because you're responding to some of the things that I'm saying, but are you able to hear the videos when I play the clips? That would be really helpful. So for those of you that are listening to this in the form of a podcast, you're not going to be able to see the videos. But this video here, this is a YouTube clip that shows the hailstorm balls falling from the sky. And it says the hailstorm affected more than 30,000 people and destroyed 4,855 hectares of crops. So, I mean, so you got floods. Okay, great. So I've just told that, yes, you can hear the video. Great. So I've just heard I just shared that the floods are destroying the crops. we're not done yet. When I start sharing about the other plagues that are hitting China right now, destroying crops, I mean, it's just like one thing after the other. Everything that can produce food is being destroyed inside of China by nature right now. I don't know what you did, China, but either God or Mother Nature is ticked at you right now. So I'm going to keep playing this. And that was the end of that video. But if I go back just at the beginning of this, so you can see the hail. This is a very oddly shaped balls of hail. Now, this video that I'm showing right now shows it a little bit deformed, but I can find other videos and other pictures on the internet that have an exaggerated shape of what looks like, no joke, looks like the coronavirus. Guys, that's just a little too close to home. That's just a little strange. So these are the 7 deadly plagues that are hitting China. For those of you that are just now joining us, I talked about the floods that are just pounding China right now. Entire cities underwater. Every province inside of China is experiencing floods. Crops washed away, buildings destroyed, people killed. It's the biggest thing hitting China right now. It's bigger than the coronavirus. And it's not even hitting the news because of all the other things that are happening. Just over the weekend, 2 towns were shut down and have been quarantined off because of the second deadly plague hitting China, the Bubonic Plague. And then I just showed video footage that is freaky of fire coming down from heaven and consuming entire high-rise buildings. And then I just showed deadly plague number 4, hail. Guys, we're getting into biblical things here. Whether you believe that this is of God or not doesn't really matter to me, because we're talking biblical proportions. These are the kind of things that legends are built on. And we're watching it unfold inside of China before our eyes. Now, you might not see this on the internet every day or on the news every day, but China is the world's most populated nation. And this is pounding them. Deadly plague number 5, the swine flu. China has more than half of the world's pigs, and those pigs are dying because of the swine flu. Now, this is called the African swine flu. It's been hitting inside of China for the last year. By the end of last year, 300 to 350 million pigs were killed. China has over half of the world's pig population. And they just had to slaughter them. Now, I have to tell you, I don't even know. I might get shut down off of YouTube for showing this. But I'm going to show some video of how China has been killing their pigs, because they're being hit hard. Pig farmers are having to destroy their pigs. And in China, pork is a huge part of the Chinese diet. Whenever you drive around in China, I lived in Kunming for a while. I spent a lot of time, lived for a bit of time in Beijing, lived for some time in Xinjiang. In those areas, you can regularly see bicycles every single morning loaded up with pigs. The pigs have been killed, cleaned, and then their carcasses piled on one another on the back of bicycles and then just trucked across town. The pigs live with the people. They have what's called hog hotels. Hog hotels can be like 13-story buildings where every floor is just full of people and pigs. And right now, the pigs are being just smashed by this disease called the swine flu, the African swine flu. Again, China's like this petri dish where people are getting sick. So I'm going to switch over again to screen share and go to the videos. I'm just going to close out of this one, go to our next one. This now, I don't know if you can see my cursor here for those of you that are watching the video live, but it might look a little blurry right now. This is a YouTube video. Basically, China is so trying to kill pigs so quickly that they're burying them alive by the thousands. They're digging holes and just pushing the pigs into the holes and then just burying them. So here you can see a backhoe that has just dug a hole. It's hard to watch. And you can hear all of that screaming, of course, as well. And I mean, there is this fear of the virus jumping from pigs to humans, which might already start happening. So you might hear, okay, the African swine flu hitting pigs inside of China, that doesn't have anything to do with me. Eugene, I'm not a part of that equation. I don't have, not yet. If this breaks out, this will be another pandemic coming from China. Coronavirus, Bubonic Plague, and then possibly the swine flu as well. One person just wrote on here, Sam has written again and said, yeah, I remember that happening before in 2018. Yes, it happened in 2018, 2019, but 2019 and 2020 is the worst that it's ever been. So we're looking at, again, like biblical proportions of just misery smashing into China in the form of these deadly plagues. So we have number 5, swine flu. And number 6 just happened yesterday. So I'm doing this podcast today. Today is what, the 10th? The 10th of August, just yesterday, the 9th. Earthquakes. Did you know earthquakes are happening now almost every other day inside of China? Massive earthquakes. I'm not talking about just a little bit of a shake here and there. Like what, or even what we saw just, I think, today or yesterday in North Carolina. We're seeing people dying of massive earthquakes inside of China. Yesterday in Tibet, we had an earthquake of 4.9 hit on the Richter scale, and a massive earthquake in another location hit close to the border of Nepal. 25 people were killed, 383 injured that we know of now. 1,191 houses destroyed. Roads damaged, telecommunications cut off. 2 entire counties, the one of Nalam and Guiyang, were evacuated. So 7,000 people were relocated and evacuated from one village, and another one 5,000 people. So we have about 12,000 people that have been evacuated and relocated into other areas because of earthquakes that have been happening. That was just yesterday. August 8th. We had 2 earthquakes, both of them happening in Tibet. August 8th, we had another earthquake take place in Xinjiang. That was 3 in one day. August 6th, we had a massive earthquake happen in Sichuan. August 4th, another massive earthquake take place in Sichuan. I can go back for the last month, and every other day, if not every day, there have been earthquakes smashing in to China. I haven't seen this before. I've never seen China suffer from this many earthquakes over this kind of period of time. And because of all the other crap that's happening, we don't even notice. We're not even able to focus on one disaster because it's like, they're happening so fast, so regularly, so rapidly that, I mean, we would get whiplash trying to look around and see each one of them as they're taking place. The last one, the 7th deadly plague hitting China right now is going to blow your mind because this literally comes right out of the Bible. This is a story from Exodus itself. Number 7, locusts. What? Locusts are hitting all over China, in the western part of China, in the southwestern part of China, in the northeastern sector of China. China is being hit by these locusts that are destroying tens of thousands of acres across the north, the east, the south. And what we are seeing is that, for instance, we had, according to local officials in Yunnan province, which is the province where I used to live, in Yunnan province, there is a plague of what's called yellow spine bamboo locusts that have destroyed over 120,000 acres of crops just this year. So at a time when China desperately needs every crop they can get their hands on. And it's really hitting in a place called Pu'er. Now, anybody familiar with China? Do you know what's made in Pu'er? Do you know what's grown in Pu'er? I've worked a lot in Pu'er. We've done a lot of well digging in Pu'er because that is an area where something very popular in China is grown. It's a big part of the market, and it's being destroyed by locusts. Tea. Pu'er tea is grown in this area, and it's being completely destroyed by these locusts. The locusts are coming in so thick in swarms that they look like clouds. They look like black clouds, which are also hitting China, by the way. I mean, I just shared what is like several weeks ago when China came together to meet for their congressional meetings about the new laws pertaining to Christians inside of China in Beijing. When those lawmakers descended down on Beijing, Beijing went black. When I mean black, I mean the sun in the middle of the day disappeared. And it went to nighttime. People had to turn on their lights. It looked like it was in the middle of the night when it was actually the middle of the day. This is freaky phenomenon that is happening at every turn. Why? I cannot help but think that this is spiritual. When it comes to locusts, I mean, let me just read out of Exodus chapter 10 for a minute. It says this, Exodus chapter 10. This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will bring locusts into your country tomorrow. They will cover the face of the ground so that it cannot be seen, and they will devour what little you have left after the hail. China's getting pounded by hail, and then after the hail comes the locusts. They will devour what little you have left after the hail, including every tree that is growing in your fields. They will fill your houses and those of your officials and all of the Egyptians, something neither of your fathers nor your forefathers have ever seen from the day they settled in this land till now. Exodus chapter 10, verses 3 through 6. Guys, this looks spiritual. Now, there are a lot of videos. I'm just going to show you one. I'm going to switch over to my camera here so that you can see the source of the screen. I'm just going to switch over, going to close out this window, go back over. So this is the locusts attacking the fields in Yunnan province. This is the sky filled with locusts. That's just the camera pointed up at the air. Locusts are not that big, and yet as they're flying by, you can see them on the camera of this mobile phone. Now, for those of you that are listening to the audio and not being able to see the video, there's a guy in the video that reaches down and he's just grabbing plants from the field, and every plant is filled with locusts that are just devouring everything.
Oh.
7 deadly plagues. Locust is one that, I mean, now we're getting biblical. Every plant that he goes to, every tree that he goes to, every plant, anything that has green on it, when he shakes it, it just, locusts are jumping off. He's reaching in and grabbing with his hand. And they look like these grasshoppers. I mean, if I was to see it, I would say it's a grasshopper. But according to this video that was posted, this is called the Yellow Ridge Bamboo Locust. And you can see this video right where I've stopped it here. See this looks like a blade of grass. I mean, these guys are just chomping away, eating everything in sight. Guys, this is a disaster hitting China right now. This is something that we desperately need your prayer. These are 7 deadly plagues hitting China. If you're just now joining us, you can go back and watch this video at a later time, but I want to list all of these plagues for you that are just now joining. Floods, bubonic plague, fire coming down from the sky. This is not a joke. This feels like a parody. It feels like I'm reading a parody or I'm trying to scare little kids in Sunday school. Guys, I'm just reporting to you the news here. Hail coming down from the sky. Number 4. 5, the swine flu. Number 6, earthquakes. Number 7, locusts. These 7 deadly plagues are killing people, destroying the land, destroying the crops, increasing the misery index. China. I cannot tell you whether the two are related or not, but let's just pretend that they are for a moment. Stop persecuting the church. Read my lips. Stop persecuting the church. Because something is happening in your country. Guys, if you are praying with us, if you are partnered together with Back to Jerusalem, now China needs prayer like never before. Go into your closet, get on your knees, pull out that word of God, become a warrior in the spiritual realm, and begin to pray for the leaders inside of China. Begin to pray for the land of China. Begin to pray for the missionaries inside of China. I believe right now we are involved in a battle like we have never seen before. We have to realize that we fight not against flesh and blood. The individuals that are calling the shots, that are calling down new laws, that are persecuting the church, are people that have been blinded by the enemy. They have hardened their heart. Like the Pharaoh, they have hardened their heart against God Himself. But some of them do it out of ignorance because they've never heard the good news of Jesus Christ. And it is up to us, our generation. We can't wait for anybody else. It is us. It is us now. We have been the ones to be called to pray and have a spiritual breakthrough. We pray for the land of China right now, and the spiritual darkness that holds control over that land. We pray that that darkness be broken, that bondage be broken, that God's people be set free from the physical bondage. And may that which happens in heaven now take place on earth. We pray for the bondage to be broken in heaven so that it can be broken also on earth. Right now, the Christians inside of China already have freedom. They already have freedom. They may be in jail tonight. They may be persecuted tonight. Their churches may be raided tonight. Their homes may be raided tonight. But the government cannot legislate in their rights, and the government cannot legislate out their rights. The government does not have the power to take away their freedom. They may put them in prison. They may put them in handcuffs. They may put them in chains, but they are not bound, because spiritually they are free. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And the person that Jesus has set free is free indeed. That they can rejoice, they can give thanks, even in the middle of persecution, because what they see with their eyes is not the reality that they're living in their spirit. They have freedom that is beyond human understanding because of the joy of the Lord. But we want to see that spiritual movement, that spiritual cloud of freedom begin to saturate into the natural world. And I believe that what we are seeing inside of China can be avoided if only the leaders will get on their knees and repent before God himself. But come on their knees and repent of their sins. This darkness that is falling over China, these 7 deadly plagues, I believe are a sign for the Chinese government to wake up and recognize there's only one ruler, there's only one God, there's only one King of Kings, and he does not share his glory with anyone. Tonight, I'm asking everyone that is praying together with Back to Jerusalem to get on your knees and dedicate a special prayer time specifically for the land of China. This ancient land is being hit hard by the enemy because of this Back to Jerusalem vision of taking the gospel into the nations that have never heard it before. The enemy can't have that. The enemy cannot see the fulfillment of the Great Commission. Guys, I believe we are so close. We are right there. We're on the precipice of a tidal wave of the gospel flowing through the nations from China into every nation until it arrives back to Jerusalem. And then the end will come. Matthew 24:14. I want to thank you guys for joining us during this time. Remember, I'm sharing with you about the 7 deadly plagues of China, not to cause you fear, not to bring about fear that will incapacitate you, but to bring about information that will motivate you to pray like you have never prayed before. I want to thank you for your partnership. I want to thank you for your friendship, and I want to thank you for your prayers. God bless you. I pray that this live broadcast was a blessing for you, informed you with information that you're not going to find in any other news source. Thank you guys, and God bless.